Today we are talking all about firmware, and we're going to make this as if y'all have questions or comments or anything, we want to make it as conversational as possible. But I'm joined here with first I got the agenda. We're gonna do welcome and announcements. Of course, go through hot mining jobs. We have 4 listings today, and then that's when we're going to get in our discussion with David Erlacher, and we'll come back, let you introduce yourself after we get through the first part of this. But want to also encourage everyone. We were just talking about it. We have great, online viewership. If y'all want to come out, like if you can't come out, that's totally fine. We love you watching regardless. Camera up there. But if you do want to come out, we got great food. We had brisket, and we'll talk about our caterer easy on. Yeah, we got a little preview of the food. Thank you. Thursday meetups are my favorite because there's always some really good food.
I guess that means there's more food for us, too.
Yes, there is, and they even brought to-go boxes this time for that. So yeah, everyone, if we're the real winners here, guys. Take that, Austin. Yeah, super excited to be here at the space. Let's go through a couple of jobs hitting close to home here with Compass, but a little further away. We have 2 positions actually in Minnesota for a site lead and a site tech 1. There's different experience levels needed for each, but the data center tech 1 is more entry level. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. But if you know anyone around in the Minnesota area who's looking for work, wants to hop ship, get into a Bitcoin job, this would be a good opportunity. We should be going live in the next few months there. And we already have some interviews, so let your Minnesota friends know. And over in Texas, Riot is hiring for a minor maintenance technician in Rockdale, technician 3, so it's a little more advanced. And if we go about 2.5 hours up the road, Marathon is also hiring for minor technician 1 in Granbury, Texas, right outside of Dallas. And just for reference, the numbers at the end don't mean anything except for experience level, and there's no real standard behind what is considered a mining tech 1, 2, 3, or anything else. So if you have any sort of, experience whatsoever, it's always worth it. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, for the online audience, we'll start posting these somewhere on our space Twitter or LinkedIn. We don't have a LinkedIn, I don't think, at least that I know of. But yeah, we'll start posting these for the online audience as well. And anyone online, if you do see any of these that you do have questions about, feel free to reach out to the space on X or to me, Tatum Turnup on X. Happy to give you some more information. But we are joined by David Erlacher from Luxor Tech. David, go ahead and give us a little intro about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Who's David Erlacher?
All right. Yeah, I'm David Erlacher. I'm a firmware engineer at Luxor Technology. I've been there. We were just talking about this before, so I've been there almost 3 years. It'll be end of this month. It's been really cool. It was kind of my way to get into the Bitcoin space career-wise. I came from an aerospace background.
Interesting.
Yes, I worked for various aerospace companies, some of the big defense contractors, and some smaller companies along the way. In fact, we moved here to Denver because of a company called Seeker Engineering, and we came from Texas, actually. I'm a Montanan originally, though, so gives you a little background. My son Caleb is here joining. I've got a family and 3 wonderful sons and beautiful wife at home. They don't all want to be out here doing the Bitcoin thing, but
had to drag this one out.
no, he's been getting interested in some of the Bitcoin stuff.
Honestly, Caleb, you're young enough. I wish that I was paying attention to this kind of stuff when I was your age. So good on you. Stay with it. And some of y'all may recognize David. He might be a little familiar face. He led a BitDevs conversation, I guess, a year ago or so.
A little over a year ago, yeah. It was March of 2024.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And so that was fun. Hoping to expand on that discussion a little more tonight.
Yeah, so real quick, that discussion was basically the Bitcoin mining hardware and getting into all the details, the control boards, the hash boards. It's on YouTube if y'all want to check it out. There was some really great feedback.
Dude, that was one of my favorite bit devs. Anytime the
Tatum.
bit devs was mining related, it was always good. And then you were showing, I didn't care too much for the hash rate index stuff. Like, I get that, that's cool. But like, then you start talking, I'm like, oh yeah, my nerd senses are tingling, and we love that in the Bitcoin space. So we're going to talk about firmware today. Firmware, I'm super excited about this because firmware is very important. Because there are different firmwares that serve different needs, different purposes for miners, whether you're a home miner, whether you're doing a massive fleet, whether you're just playing around trying to see what you can get from a machine. But there's 3 questions here first, and I want to pair the two together. What is firmware and what does it control? What is this big scary F word that we always hear, but we're like, I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so one way I like to think about it and describe it to people that maybe don't even know anything about mining or electronics at all is that firmware is like the operating system. It's like your phone. You can have an Apple, you can have an Android. The main difference between those is the operating system. So on Bitcoin miners, it comes with the stock firmware from whatever manufacturer it is. We'll probably talk a lot about Bitmain because that's the main
one you see.
The main one and the one that all the third-party firmwares work on. But yeah, the firmware, if you want to replace the stock operating system, you can find another one from another company like Luxor's. Our product is LuxOS or Lux Operating System. And yeah, does that answer?
Yeah.
you're looking
And obviously he's from Luxor and I'm from Compass. Is going to naturally be a little Compass Luxor commercial, but there are other third-party firmwares that you might be familiar with. Like Brains has a custom firmware. Vanish is another common one. I'm losing it now, but I know I have a repository of just all these random sketchy firmwares.
There's Epic, but for
yeah,
those, it's like you buy the control board. You have to swap that out. You can't just put it on the control board like some of the other ones work.
Yeah.
Mara as well. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there.
So now the bigger part, why does it matter? What is the importance of firmware, and why would I load LuxOS or BrainsOS or Vanish other than stock firmware on? For conversation's sake, let's just call it an S19J Pro constantly.
Okay. Yeah.
Why would I want that rather than Bitmain's stock J Pro firmware?
Yeah, so you buy a S19J Pro off of eBay or wherever, Luxor's hardware marketplace. We'll do some more commercials along the way.
Trust me, we got plenty more promos coming up.
So you go to Luxor's hardware marketplace, you find a S19J Pro, probably cost you $200, $300, I don't know. You get that guy home, plug it into your 240-volt outlet, and wait a few minutes. That thing is going to be so loud, so hot, and you're going to go to the web interface and be like, can I make this thing quieter? Or
where's the sound settings on here?
Does it have to always take 3,500?
There's no sound settings.
Does it always have to take 3,500 watts? Like, do I want to be spending that much on my electric bill? So then you're going to start searching. You're going to find LuxOS. You're going to put that on there. What that buys you, so the stock firmware, it's like on or off, basically, typically. If you get really lucky, they'll have a low power mode, or if you want to overclock it, there might be a high power mode. Even in the stock firmware, that's rare. It depends.
What's miners have a low and high power mode stock, but
yeah.
I don't even know if Bitmain does that anymore. I could be wrong, though.
I rarely see it.
Yeah.
It exists, but it's rare. So, it's kind of like it's on or off. You don't have very many options. So you're going to do your research on third-party firmware. You're going to find one you want. One of the main things I like about it as a home miner is I can underclock it. I can tweak things, and I can use something like ATM. We'll talk more about different features, I'm sure, at some point, but that's automatic thermal management. So if I don't want my garage to heat to 90 degrees, I can turn ATM on and keep it a more constant temp while underclocking, not spending all that money on power if I don't want to, and keeping, more importantly, as a home miner, keeping the fans quiet.
Yeah.
Now, as a big miner, like, Compass, y'all have hosting sites and different things. What's the advantage there? Well, the stock firmware, it's on or off with basic settings. You have one operating point. So third-party firmware, one of the things we're doing is auto-tuning, or at least giving you the basic ability to tweak some of those settings yourself. And that's going to allow you to actually get an efficiency gain. So for the same hash rate, if you're getting JPro, so let's say 104 terahash at 3,500 watts, well, guess what? With third-party firmware, you might be able to get 104 terahash for 3,200 watts. Now your efficiency went up, your cost went down, you're still getting the same amount of Bitcoin. Well, we'll talk about dev fee too in a little bit. You might take a little hit on that hash rate, but it's going to pay off for you, though. You already got your gains back.
I just did the calculation. Stock 104 terahash S19J Pro is about 30 joules per terahash. And also, if you're unfamiliar with efficiency, your watch online and here, the metric that people usually use is joules per terahash. The lower the number, the better the efficiency. And so stock right now, stock J Pros are about 30-ish, and I think S21s are stock like 17, something like that. Yeah.
17 and a half, 18.
Yeah, something around there.
Depends on your ambient temp as well.
Right, yeah. A lot of factors play into that.
So many variables in firmware.
And speaking of all the crazy words you said, we have some, wait, was this the, oh wait, I don't know if I had the, wait, y'all are going to see a spoiler. Okay, never mind. We'll just go through the definitions and figuring out like what it all is. But unlocking that capability, it allows you to make your miner your own for whether, like LuxOS, I feel like you have the option of sticking that thing in your house or sticking it in a farm with a million of others, not a million, but a lot of others, and still being able to benefit from LuxOS in different ways. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's not designed for one purpose. It's designed to be what you want and need it to be. It really unlocks the hardware and gives you the ability to make it flexible and what you want it to be. And we'll talk more about that as we go here, I think.
And one of the things in this first bullet point, the thermal strategies, and you talked about ATM, and of course, this is Denver space, home of the Heat Punk Summit, Undermined. We were just talking about that before we started, and we're big on heat reuse. Obviously, our CEO wrote a book about it. Bitcoin mining, heat reuse. There's commercials all throughout this. You got gypped online and also in person too, but y'all got food. What is some of the things that LuxOS allows you to do with the heat? Because that's something that I'm not as familiar with. But if you're able to control like outlet temperatures, that's huge. Obviously, that changes your chip tuning and everything, and possibly your efficiency and all that. But what are some of the thermal settings that y'all have on LuxOS?
Yeah, there's lots of options there, but let's talk about ATM first. So the goal of ATM is to maintain a target board temperature. So you're going to keep your output board temperature roughly within a target. You know, it's like a control system. So you're going to have some overshoot, undershoot. It's not going to sit perfectly, but it's
right.
You know,
it's going to correct kind of like a thermostat, basically.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, when you have your thermostat set to 70, it's going to vary
right.
plus or minus a degree. Similar, right? But the idea is you set your target temp, and if, let's say this isn't necessarily in a home mining application, it's at a mining farm somewhere, you don't care about the noise, you can actually allow it to overclock to the maximum point it'll go to maintain whatever temp you pick, and then say it's at that operating point in the middle of the night when it's cool, sun comes up, it starts heating up through the day, your board temp goes up a little bit, it's going to automatically start underclocking. And so as the day goes on, it's going to get hot, it's going to find that sweet spot, and then as the ambient temperatures change again, as the sun sets, cools off, it's going to go back up. So
that's very valuable too, especially in the mines that are like in like West Texas, for instance.
Yep.
There's a certain point, like 9 a.m. or something, where it's just like everything just starts. You just see those blinking red lights coming on. So that's very valuable for that application, I think.
For sure, and that's really how it was born. It was born out of necessity, and that's how we came up with it in the first place. Is there was a need, and the need was that with the stock operating point, the stock settings, you plug it in, it couldn't operate at that operating point when the temperatures got really hot. But with ATM, can keep your miner hashing and then capitalize on that headroom you have as the temperatures are cooler. And therefore, you're going to get more overall hash rate out of it depending on the conditions and your settings of that.
So it's not using, but it's reacting to the heat, reactively saying, hey, I want to hold back a little bit from hashing as much to keep my temperatures down.
To let those board temps cool down.
But then when it's cold, it's like, I'm going to optimize this and overclock so we can make sure that like everything stays constant, but it's cool. Why not, use that environmental temperature?
And I think it's actually really good for the hardware too. It's trying to really maintain a more constant temperature of that hardware. Now the variable is the input temperature at the front end of the board. You're getting cooler air in when it's cooler outside, and that's what allows you to overclock some more. And then you're getting hotter air in, making you underclock. But at the output of that board, the hot temperatures, that's really what you're maintaining, and it just tracks and stays constant. Your temp delta of that board will change as you have cooler air coming in. You'll have a wider delta.
So is ATM automatically on LuxOS for all models right now, or
Yep.
Okay,
If LuxOS runs on your miner, ATM works on it.
that's awesome. I need to play around with that a little more.
You should.
I don't even know if I've ever. I knew that Tyler had told me a few things about what he was playing with, but I hadn't gotten my hands on it, so
And
I'm gonna nerd out after this.
And all of the settings, the temp target and kind of this offset from that target, all the parameters, it's all flexible. It's all customizable through the UI or the API, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, from a home mining application, similar thing, except you're probably going to want it underclocking so you're not running the fans really crazy unless you have a really nice setup with, trying to mitigate the noise. But similar idea, you can set that temperature a lot lower so the miner runs more underclocked, meaning quieter, and maybe something you can even run with like a low-key kit, which we could talk about that some more too. It gives you the ability to run the machine from a normal outlet, 120 volts. But when you're doing that, you can't be drawing 3,000 watts. You want to be in the 1,000 watt range. But ATM kind of lets you fiddle with that too and try to maintain a room temperature as well. Say your target on the board is 40 Celsius. You can kind of figure out what that means for the air coming out of it and how that's going to heat your room. And if you like that temperature and the miner tries to maintain that in a room environment, it's a more constant temp. You don't have all these cycles like the external air temp, right, outside. And it works really, really well. So I use that as a home miner just to try to keep things really nice and stable.
Yeah. Also, just a side note, one thing that Luxor and I know Brains, I can't speak to too many others that I write off, but they did something that was unthinkable that Bitmain never figured out, and that was a dark mode on the UI. So thank you for that. It's much easier on the eyes.
Yeah, those UIs don't. What's miner UI? What is going on with?
What's better UI?
Let's not even go there.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that. All right.
Nah.
I'm curious about this AI plus Python equals miner scripting. I saw that in our notes that we shared, and I'm curious what this is, because AI is a ton of people have already started talking about AI in mining. It's like how can we utilize this? I think Auradine with their Teraflux, they have they built an AI agent that has a locally hosted for them LLM to ask questions about the miner within it. But that's not using AI for mining. What is this AI Python stuff?
Yeah, so the reason I even threw AI in there. So first, the API, that's like an interface to the firmware. So you can think of it as, and maybe everyone here knows what an API is, but I'll phrase it in a way that I'm trying to explain it to someone that doesn't know. But it's a way to talk to the firmware with another application, so another piece of software. So what LuxOS does is it really unlocks it. So at the Heat Punk Summit, I just want to kind of go back to something that was brought up and something I've been thinking a lot about. At the Heat Punk Summit, there was a lot of talk about open source, and this idea of what if we had open source firmware. the goal really, and something we've embraced at Luxor with LuxOS, is that we wanted to give the tools to the end user and give you really everything you need. Everything our firmware can do in its internal application, we can interface with externally through another application. So, for example, if you wanted to write a very simple program to turn your miners on and off at a certain time every day, say you have solar panels and you want them to automatically come on when the sun rises and go off when the sun sets, and just use them when your solar power is going, you could write a very simple script in Python to do that. Now, before AI, everyone's like, well,
I don't know Python.
I don't know Python. I'm not a computer programmer. Well, our API is all documented. You can go probably in the free version of ChatGPT or pick your favorite AI client, point them to our firmware API docs, and say, I want a Python script that is going to do the X, Y, and Z, and it's going to help you write that, and it's going to kind of go through the motions with you and help you figure that out. And the reason I brought up AI is it really unlocks this to the more novice or not technically inclined users. You know, I have a technical background. Obviously, I'm an engineer, but even I am seeing like huge gains and benefits from using AI, and I see how it's unlocking the ability for people with no background to leverage it. And AI is so good at Python, and Python is really all you need to interface with the LuxOS API. So it's very powerful. And,
That's really cool.
And some other things you can do with the API. So I'll give you a concrete example. We're coming out actually with a JPro Auto Tuner, a improvement upon it. We already have one. It'll be improved. But guess how we developed the algorithm and tested the algorithm for this next thing that we implemented in our executable, which is in Rust, by the way, a different language, a harder language to program in. So,
Was it AI that y'all were running tests with?
Yeah, I'm sure AI was used to help write this, but we just wrote the algorithm in Python. So anyone in this room could write their own auto-tuning algorithm that would run against a LuxOS miner, and you can see if you can make it work better than our algorithm if you wanted to.
That's one thing
and AI could help you do it.
I know that people are using AI to code, and that's one thing that I have not really experimented with because like I don't have too much desire, I guess, or application. Until now, it sounds like I want to just kind of
check
see
it out.
Like what kind of auto tuning that I can make and stuff like that.
Well, another use case, I talked to a guy, I think his name was John from South Dakota. And John, if you see this, I wish, I gave you a card. I wish you'd reach out to me. But John was using LuxOS in his home, and our fan algo, I admit it could use some improvement. It can kind of whir a little bit and overshoot, undershoot, so you get kind of this oscillatory noise. And if you're in your home, your wife's probably going to complain about it more than anyone. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the wife acceptance factor too at Heat Punk Summit. I think that was Twan who talked about that. And
that's great. By the way, I think it was Crypto Cloaks that might have coined that.
Coined that term? Okay.
Yeah, because he did the wife test on the space heater, and that was great. But.
So, I say all this to say that John used our API to make his own fan algo. And
that's awesome.
He just had his own thing running to make the fans do what he wanted them to do, and it worked great. And, we've even talked about what if we opened up like some kind of competition to have people...
A little hackathon.
Right, yeah, like a hackathon, write some cool stuff and, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why I put AI in there, though. It's a useful tool that can help you leverage, even if you have no software background, help you like get a start and leverage some of that knowledge that it has.
Tyler Stevens, if you're watching from Austin, there's
Hi,
been
Tyler.
no approval for this, but Luxor Compass Hackathon coming up soon at the space.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. It was a joke, everyone. Just to go on with time, let's keep moving on here. I liked this slide because it mentioned dev fee. It's making the firmware work for you. And we hear dev fee a lot. Can you explain dev fee and what it is? And go ahead and explain why we should not fear the dev fee.
Okay, so first of all, dev fee, pretty much like any as far as I know, any third-party firmware is either going to take a dev fee or earn their money some other way. I think Epic doesn't have a dev fee, but you're buying the hardware from them. You pay $100 for a board, but no dev fee, right? So how long do you have to mine to end up paying $100 of dev fee? The answer is a really long time. But dev fee is the idea that some of that hash rate goes to the developers, a developer fee. So Luxor firmware, I am drawing a blank right now on what it is.
I can't remember,
is it
but
2.8%? I'm going to say 2.8.
I think it was under 3, I want to say.
Okay, 2.8%. I knew it was either 2.8 or 3.8. I think it's 2.8.
I think it's 2.8, I want to say.
So say your hash rate's 100 terahash, 2.8 goes to Luxor's dev fee, and then you get the other, 97.2, if I'm doing the math right. Anyway, so that's the idea of dev fee, but hopefully already what I've talked about and some of the things that I've said help you all see how you can gain that back, and it's not really a financial hit if you've already gained that back by being able to operate your miner more efficiently or just be able to use it in your home. You guys aren't going to get a J Pro and plug it in and keep that running in your house. I guarantee you. You're gonna go nuts. You're gonna end
Even
up.
I, a psychopath, would not do that.
No, nobody would do this. At least not continuously.
Right.
Maybe in a burst.
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
in and out, in the winter or something. But no.
Caleb can tell you when I'm like testing some stuff. We'll have a miner running at full blast, and for a little bit, I'll usually try to put it in the quiet box. But if it's something quick, like 5 minutes, I just let that thing go. But
then the family group chat starts blowing up, like, hey, shut that thing off.
We can handle 5 minutes, but I guarantee you, continuously, you're going to lose your mind. So, so don't fear the dev fee. We've unlocked the hardware for you. You're going to be able to write, your own stuff. You're going to be able to enable ATM. You're going to be able to get more efficiency by running the auto tuner. You're going to be able to play around with it, underclock it, do everything you need to do. And so, thankfully, that's what keeps me working and employed, is having a cool product to work on for end users like y'all, and keeps the world going around. So we like the idea of open source as like just in general as people, right? And as Bitcoiners, open source, yeah, it sounds good. But we all know what makes the world go is also,
right.
money,
You can only do something
Bitcoin.
free for so long, So that's why I always am, happy with the dev fee. Usually it's not much at all either. Like,
No.
you're literally the backbone of why I'm able to do whatever with my mining stuff.
One more commercial. If you use LuxOS with Luxor Pool, you actually get a rebate on,
Yeah, I was going to
on
say,
the
I
dev
think
fee
usually
too.
you can reduce that dev fee if you use the pools that they offer as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think, every major provider is doing the same type of thing, except the ones that don't have a pool.
Oh,
Vanish,
by the
I
way,
think.
this is the next slide. I was just looking at the slides on my phone because I don't have presenter view. This was where I probably should have put this one up front because it was a little more of the
Oh, yeah,
more of the terminology. So let's work on in reverse here. But let's talk about like voltage, frequency, power, efficiency. These are all things that firmware touches. The chip temp, board temp. What are those things that the firmware is touching? And which ones would matter more for different users, and how does LuxOS or any third-party firmware alter that?
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about the first four, the big four: the voltage, the frequency, the power, the efficiency. So really, if you watch the BitDevs thing on the mining hardware, your voltage comes from the power supply. I think most people have an intuitive idea of what voltage is from batteries and plugging stuff in and whatnot. But the power supply on a Bitcoin miner is converting your AC power to a DC voltage. So you're converting 240 volts typically to some DC voltage range, often about 12 to 15 volts DC. And so the firmware is interfacing with that power supply to adjust the voltage up and down. Now, the hash boards have ASIC chips. So to echo something someone said also at the Heat Punk Summit, the ASICs aren't the miner. The ASICs are the chips
I'm
on the hash
I'm
boards.
big on that. They're ASIC miners. They're not ASICs. All right, guys.
They're
We
ASIC
need to
miners
start call them ASIC
because
miners.
they have ASIC chips. ASIC is an application-specific integrated circuit. So just like the chips in your cell phone or on in your laptop or whatever, but these chips are designed to mine Bitcoin.
And just for anyone who isn't aware, just before we go further with this conversation, a standard board for an S19J Pro has 126 of these ASIC chips on them, and there's 3 boards. So that's what we're talking about when we say ASIC. We're not talking about the actual machine. We're talking about those couple hundred chips that are within the machine.
Yeah, 372
Whatever
chips, I think, in a J Pro.
3 is.
Yeah. 372 maybe. Anyway,
Sounds about right.
that's a lot of chips. So those chips are operating at an operating point of whatever voltage they're getting and then whatever frequency they're set to. Or you can think of frequency as a clock speed. So it's a digital system, and it's got a digital clock inside of it that's running at a specific speed. So that's frequency. And the faster that runs, the faster all of the logic is switching. That means
Kind of like RPMs on a car, kind of.
like RPM. Thank you, Tatum. That's a great analogy. Think of it as we're slowing down or speeding up, right? And, frequency, same thing. The same reason you can hear my voice right now is our ears are picking up that frequency of the sound of our voice. Of course, that's way slower because in these frequencies, we're talking megahertz, millions of cycles per second. But that frequency range is going to determine how much power that chip's going to need, because the faster you're switching all the transistors, the more power it needs. The more voltage you have to give it, the more power it's going to consume. So the 2 main things that the firmware is doing is adjusting your chip frequencies and your voltage. And the Bitmain stock firmware, when you plug it in, all the chips go to one frequency and you can't change it, and the voltage goes to a set voltage and you can't change it.
Across the board for all 300-something, 370-something.
All 3 boards get the same voltage, and that is true for third-party firmware too on all S19, S21 generation machines. The S9, actually, you could do different voltages per board because of the power supply architecture, but they all have the same bus bars. So that gets you to power. So that combination of the voltage and frequency settings determines how much power that miner is consuming. And so third-party firmware gives you the ability to consume less or consume more power. Of course, the variable on the output of that is how much hash rate are you getting. For more power, hopefully you can get more hash rate. And then the final equation is the efficiency. Say you set the chips at a certain frequency, and Bitmain says out of the box, let's call it 400 megahertz, we want 13 volts. Well, if I can run that at the same frequency at 12.5 volts, power is going to go down because I'm using less voltage. And so that's where efficiency comes in. You're
trying to find that highest frequency for the lowest voltage that's compatible.
Exactly, before the chips go unhealthy. Because basically what happens, if you drop the voltage too much, the chips can no longer do their job. They're starving for power, and it's going to have a negative effect. But you find that sweet spot. That's what tuning is really trying to do, find that sweet spot. Most hash rate out of the chip at the lowest voltage, which gives you the best power envelope. And then, that all drives the efficiency of the machine, and that's a function of your power and your hash rate, your joules per terahash. So,
yeah, it's a lot that goes into. It's crazy how like one little square that's about a square centimeter literally controls how much money you make or don't, depending on how nice you treat it. Now, does LuxOS do chip-by-chip tuning, or is it just a general across the board?
So I guess what I'll call our initial released auto tuner was like an across the board type of thing, but we're now starting to explore and go into almost a chip by chip, but it's we'll call it a domain-based approach. So the chips are grouped in domains, and we believe like within a domain we can adjust frequencies, but we're currently keeping them all constant
In their
within a respective domain.
Okay.
Yeah.
And J Pros are what, 3 chips per domain?
Yes,
Okay.
3 chips
Gotcha.
per domain. The old vanillas are 2 chips per domain, and in the newer machines, it's often
I think I
between
saw.
7 to 12.
Yeah,
12 might be
I saw
about the
the
highest.
numbers. I was like, that's not right. And then I was like, no, it is just really different.
Yeah, they went to like a much different architecture around like the S19 XP, right around there.
Yeah. And then also with the new Pro and XP, 21 Pro and XP, the boards are just completely different because they're
Yep.
bigger altogether.
Bigger
so.
altogether, yeah.
So
Much
how does
different.
that? I'm kind of throwing a little wrench in here, but with new miners coming out, how does that look at Luxor? Like when y'all first heard the S21 Pro was dropping, were you like, oh hell yeah, or were you like, oh no? Like I feel like it was one of those, or was it a mix, or what? And how does that rollout for those firmwares go?
Yeah, excuse me. For me, I see like the new machines as just it's like another problem to solve, another challenge to
A new
tackle.
playground.
Yeah, and also job security and our firmware. So Bitmain, you have to go on their website and you pick a firmware for a specific model. Our firmware is like a one size fits all. It's really one underlying executable, and so that makes it. I guess I'll say that makes it a little easier to add support because we're not trying to manage all of these different.
Each individual one. Yeah, if you ever
Yeah.
had to download stock firmware from Bitmain, it's kind of miserable.
It's-
There's like you have
it's
to go
ridiculous.
find which coin you're looking for, then which machine, and then there's usually like 3 different types that you got to make sure you get the right one.
It can
So-
be that way for some of the third-party firmware too. For LuxOS, you just download the Commander tool and it kind of takes care of it if you have the right control board. If you don't, you might have to get some support to be able to install to it for various reasons. But yeah, so yeah, for me, it's a positive. You know, the industry continues on, new hardware's coming out. It's all positive. You know, of course, like, yeah, it means more work's coming down the pipe, but it's my job.
Right.
I'm working.
fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Now, the hard part is we were later to the game, and we're still catching up and supporting other machines that exist that we don't support yet too. So the new stuff coming out is like more on top of that. But yeah, we already have firmware for the S21 Pro, the S21 XP, S21 Plus. So we already
Y'all are all
support.
caught up. Yeah, that's
Well,
all. Well,
We're still going back and trying to support other stuff too.
for the new stuff, yeah, y'all worry about your new games. We're gonna go play with our old ones.
But
so.
but a lot of times when the new stuff comes out, that becomes the cool thing, the thing we want to add support for next, right? So
That's super
yeah.
exciting.
yeah,
I wanted to touch on. I wanted to make sure that we had enough time to touch on this for feedback and open Q&A because you pointed out like the first bullet point: future requests matter. Like it's very important. You were talking about open source. You know, you're giving the tools, but you're only making those tools because there are problems that are identified, and some of those are from community.
Yeah.
And so, how much like you gave the example with the guy from South Dakota that did the fan stuff. Obviously, he made a solution himself. But what kind of do y'all actually take feedback from end users and implement that stuff?
100%. Yeah, and it can be a mix of things. It can be bug reports where you see a problem or something you think is a problem. It can be a feature request. So we give you this API, and I say you can do whatever you want with it. But what if you have an idea that we haven't thought of yet, or you come up with something we haven't had time to work on yet? Maybe it's on our radar, but it's not a priority. Well, you can reach out to us and say, hey, this is what I'd like to do. And quite often we will, take that and implement it. In some cases, it might go into the backlog because it might not be like a high priority or a lot of work. But I would say we consider everything that comes our way, and quite often it gets implemented. If you're a massive customer of ours, of course, that's going to
I have a
Make
little
it-
more priority.
make it go up the priority list, depending, especially if it's a problem for the solution you're trying to solve. But yeah, recently, in fact, this is kind of a silly one, but we had quite a bit of input on our LEDs, that our LED behavior doesn't match stock and it can be confusing. So guess
I
what?
will say LED stock. Like if you know that, it's really good just across the board. So
Yeah, so guess what? LuxOS LEDs work like stock now.
That's great
So,
to hear. I remember, wasn't it a solid green if it was hashing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was different. And I was like, guys, I think the miner's broken in a good way. And they were like, no, it's just Lux. I was like,
Yep.
okay, we're good.
Yep.
That kind of brings up the next point that I wanted to hear from you. What's worked and what's failed, and how have you adapted? Obviously, lessons from the field, I can give you completely different lessons from the field than you can. But what are some things like what are some things that LuxOS did not roll out because they just didn't work, or some failure stories or adaptions?
Oh man, like I guess as far as failure stories, we've one example would be when we first came out. It was like March going into the summer months, and then that winter we realized, hey, like sometimes the miners come up kind of unhealthy, and Bitmain and other firmware had a very different approach at startup. So we put a lot of effort into what we call like a warm boot methodology. The idea there is in very, very, very cold temperatures, we do some specific things to be able to come up and, yeah, kind of this preheat idea, get the boards warmed up and come up in a very solid state where without that, you might have some issues, maybe some chips not hashing optimally, that kind of a thing. So, as you're developing and moving fast, and conditions can vary so widely, you can lose sight of some of these things that might come back as like a bit of a bug later, and then that gives you something to work on. And we've definitely had many attempts and failures of trying different things with tuning, for example. It's very complex to think through tuning algorithms, and thank goodness we have this API to be able to write some Python code to test it. We don't have to put it in the firmware itself to try and play with these things. It's actually a very brilliant approach when you think about it, that we can just use our API to try to figure out what we're going to put in to our internal development as a feature, as like a baseline thing. So there's definitely been some stories along those lines of failures and things we probably put a lot of work into and then punted or kicked down the road.
I feel like there's a lot of failures in Bitcoin mining, but they're good if you're failing forward. And I feel like that's a lot that happens, because sometimes you will fail badly, and it might be like a failed farm or something like that. But then, you figure stuff out like that on the firmware side. It's like, oh, well, we just learned what to do next time. That
Exactly. Yeah, and you learn from your mistakes. You learn from failure, and you don't really appreciate the good stuff if you don't know what it looks like to fail. Like this, everyone wins mentality really hurts us as humanity. You need to understand and learn how to lose to be able to appreciate the wins.
Before we get to kind of the open forum, which I'm excited to do and open up discussion with the crowd, but
Me too.
is there anything that you can tell us that you're excited? I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but just is there something that you're excited about at Luxor that you're able to share that is coming up the pipeline? Anything big happening?
I mean, I'm excited about the J Pro Auto Tuner upgrade. We do have some big things in the works, but I don't know if I can share that. And I wish.
Yeah, that's why I had to make sure that preference of preface of I'm not trying to extort information, but
No, I know, Tatum. In the near future, I think we'll have some real big announcements coming soon. In the near term, short term, I guess, big improvements coming for different tuners. Lots of big updates internal to LuxOS as far as new features and improvements. We're adding new model support as we go. S21 Hydro coming soon, for example. So we just keep chugging away, and I wish I could share one big thing, but I'm gonna say I can't because I don't know.
that's probably safe. Yeah, let's. I'll talk to you after this.
But there's always exciting things going on in the space as a whole, and Luxor has been an amazing company to be with, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities there, and we just keep building, and that's a goal. The firmware team, we just put our heads down, we keep building. We love seeing our firmware running on these machines. I think it's adding a lot of capability for different use cases. We have a lot of very happy customers, and it's just amazing to be working on this stuff.
Do you happen to have any metrics of or any ideas of how many miners or downloads LuxOS has gotten? Do y'all have that at all?
We do. I don't know if I can share that either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Gotcha.
I just don't know, and because I don't know, I'm gonna err on the
I've
side
always
of
been
caution.
curious on like
What-
where third party firmware lies in the hash rate because I see a lot of stock, but then obviously I see a ton of firmwares. I've seen firmwares on miners that I never knew existed until I like logged in the UI and I was like, what is this?
Luxor, occasionally they'll post some social media things. I do remember a post, I think, when we crossed 10 exahash of hash rate under management, meaning 10 exahash of mining hash rate using LuxOS. I don't know the exact number today, but it's around a zeta hash, so 1,000 exahash.
Zeta, wait,
Am I
what's
thinking
current?
of that right?
Zetahash is we're almost at a Zetahash globally, not
Yeah.
quite. So
Yeah. And this would have been a while ago when we were at 10 exa, but that would
okay,
would be the
gotcha.
equivalent.
Okay,
What I'm trying to get to is that would be the equivalent of like 1%
1%.
of
Okay.
the total network hash rate. So that kind of maybe gives you a little
Yeah.
bit of an idea.
Okay, we're currently. I just had to check now because I didn't know if we were over at Zetahash. We're 920 exahash globally.
Okay. Yep.
Still have that running bet going.
And I know the hash rate under the pool management is kind of public info. You
Right.
can go to mempool space and see that breakdown.
Sweet.
So
Let's open up to the audience. Anyone here? I know that we have some people who work in the field, maybe some home miners. Y'all have any questions, feedback, curiosity, just from anything that David has said? Anything third-party firmware, how to optimize your machine? I already have. I have 10 billion questions, but that's what I'm here to do. But what's up?
yeah. Oh, so good question.
Wait, real
That's-
quick, just
that's a
to
really
repeat
good
it for the stream, asking about attack vectors for third-party firmware and breaking ASICs is kind of where this question's going.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because you can like break a machine if you have the capability to tweak all the settings. So, I could set the voltage max, the frequency max, tweak my dangerous shutdown temperature, and turn the fans off, and that's like a bad recipe. It won't necessarily brick the machine because LuxOS actually has a somewhat conservative limit on what we call the dangerous temp, where the machine will shut down. But I would not like try that. Now, from a security standpoint, the onus of security, and I know the big mines take this very seriously, is the network security of their mines. So, to be able to do that to the firmware, you're going to have a way in. So that first line of defense really is that operation, whoever owns that mine, making sure their network is secure. And then say a hacker was able to get in onto the network, they would have to have the knowledge of accessing the machines and setting those settings and things. But there is risk there. So that's a great question. There is risk.
I feel like it's more on the front line defense of the sites and your network
Yep.
to be able to do that.
And every site has that locked down pretty good. Now, does that mean it's impenetrable? Realistically, I guess the answer is no. I mean, I'm not a network hacker, so I don't know what it would take. I know a lot about.
Man, I wish John was here. He'd be answering the question for you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fair question, good question. Also, I guess I'll throw in Luxor is SOC 2 compliant. I think we're the only firmware that meets that standard. That is like kind of a security type thing. I'm not an expert on it, but also we do have plans and have talked about other security layers built into the firmware. But like so many, it is pretty much open. I mean, the API is open generally, so yeah.
Question kind of building off of that on the settings in the danger zone. Luxor does have fail safes for that. Is that something that you're able to change as an end user, which obviously wouldn't recommend, but if I wanted to get a little crazy, am I able to take those fail safes off?
No, like on the temperature fail safes, not today. If you put in a support request and wanted some like
Hey,
super
David, can I kill my machine real quick?
some super special thing, you know, we might consider it if you had a valid use case and it was worth our time. But you know, just for
fun, no.
just for one person to light their miner on fire, we're probably gonna say, nah, we're not interested.
Yeah, no, I get that. So that is good to know that, like, because I mean, without those fail safes, me just playing around without the knowledge that, honestly, some of the knowledge that you've given me tonight, I probably would brick a machine one way or the other.
You could. I mean, if I was playing with, for example, the fans, I would set my dangerous temp conservatively low so it has a chance to thermally shut down if my fan algo that I'm trying to work on really messes up or something. And there are warnings in the firmware, like warning, for example, with overclocking, everyone has this standard warning of like,
Hey, I don't know if you want to do this, and everyone's like,
yeah,
yes, I do.
you're gonna just be running things hotter and faster, and you know, there's risk. There's always risk, and as everyone knows, these machines do break, even with the stock firmware in a okay environment, they can break, and you know, it's there's a lot of parts. They're very complex, and there's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have a question, Eli?
Eli.
Hey, can you just say that question again in the microphone? I can't stretch it, but how does the LuxOS kernel log, how's the utility of that compared to the granularity of the stock firmware for the diagnostics that technicians do?
Okay, so
we really got to get a crowd mic because that was rough.
Okay, so Eli, we recently came out with something really cool called the Events API. You can call one command events, and it's going to give you a list of all like major things that have happened.
Oh, that's awesome. So you can pinpoint it rather than searching through it all.
Exactly. You get kind of this concise log of everything you would kind of look for typically as an error, and it'll tell you like you had a thermal shutdown, you know, it got rebooted at this time, and this happened and that happened, kind of a thing. It'll let you know, like, this hash board shut down because of such and such.
Oh,
and
wow.
then
So it goes like board by board. It'll tell you.
It'll give you details.
Wow.
And some of this stuff pops up in the UI, too. Like, if you have an overtemp, you'll now get, like, a special display in the UI to let you know. And it's coming from that Events API under the hood. But you can make that API call and get the whole list as well. And it gives you that.
There's just more on
history.
LuxOS that I hadn't played with.
This is really pretty new. It's a really exciting feature we rolled out. There was a little bit of stuff on social media, but you know, it's
for technicians. That's awesome.
It is awesome for technicians. It's awesome for operators.
Brian's like, yes, thank you.
And then like we put a lot of effort into like our topology view. Like if you go to the hashboard view, it actually shows you the physical arrangement of the chips. So say you did have like some underperforming chips, you'll now have an idea of where those are physically on the board. It'll tell you the domain, the chip number, and you'll have a visual representation of where it's out on the board.
Am I turning into a Lux Maxi?
Yes. Guzman like demoed something like that or posted something about that on X quite a while back when this rolled out. I don't know exactly when it came out, but I want to say it was like January, February. We had the UI update that followed that incorporated all of it. The UI is real cool now. Like if you curtail the miner, you'll get this nice status that it's sleeping. It's pretty slick. And we're continuing to think about and planning to implement more things for the operators. I'll leave it kind of at that. We have improved a lot. If you remember, I know you remember when we first released, our log was like
Your log sucked. I'm sorry.
information overload. It sucked.
All love to Luxor. I'm sorry, but I had
No,
to.
it sucked. I'll say it. I mean, everyone at Luxor. So when we first released, it was like there was just a year plus of all this work that went into it. The last thing you're thinking is, how do we clean up these logs?
Yeah, I want to make it function, not find
you want to make
issues.
it work. And so we're one of the later firmware to the game, right? But as y'all have seen, I hope we're continuing to go back, improve some of those things while we keep moving forward with the new miners and new features. We are trying to make some of this stuff that's there better, like the logs. And I think if you look at a log today, you'll be pretty happy. It's not as noisy. There's very little actually that we put in, so that information is now meaningful. It doesn't just get lost in the noise. And if you still want to see all that craziness, you can. We didn't take that away. You can still see it all if you love that. So
I don't.
I don't blame you, Tatum.
So just for the stream, Eli's asking about thermal changes with, this is a good question with the domains, like we talked about earlier, S21 Pros or like 512 or whatever, 712. You have 5,
5 actually, because S21 Pro or S21 XP is 5. I can't remember what's what.
I literally looked this up.
It's
last
S21
week.
Pro has 5 chips per domain, 55 chips per board. Had to think about it for a minute. It's 93 chips per board on the S21 XP. But anyway,
you have to keep all these numbers in files in your head. And
yeah, all these numbers are in my head. So to answer your question about the domain, so interestingly, Bitmain's design is not ideal because the domains span the temperature range, meaning they're oriented from hot to cold. If they were oriented in the other direction, you could you could like overclock the ones on the cold side and underclock on the hot side. Yeah, but and then the domains are oriented like the opposite way. But you reminded me though, so talking about tuning and stuff, our API actually lets you adjust frequency per chip. So you could play around with your own tuner to do a per chip tuner. We do have some, I'll just call them like rough electrical concerns. These boards are not well documented. We don't have like a full schematic, a full understanding of all the circuitry. But I would say if you're playing around with tuning, just proceed with caution. If you don't want to damage your miner, probably don't play around with your own tuning algo.
This is him freeing himself of all liability if you do decide to do that.
Yeah, but yeah, so I wish I could say the per domain tuning can help us thermally, but it doesn't really bias anything there. But often, I don't know if you've seen this in your experience, but so often you'll have a miner where like it just seems like one chip or a group of chips are just struggling. So per domain tuning allows us to handle that by underclocking that one or boosting voltage and then keeping that one the same, but then overclocking the other. So that group, for whatever reason, it just wants a little more voltage to be happy. So yeah, and so you can come at it 2 ways. You can reduce frequency to make it happy, or you can give it more voltage and make it happy. But if you do that, now you're going to want to overclock all the other domains and keep all the domains at their happy place, and then. Yep, and then eventually, hopefully when all of it settles, you'll be getting more hash rate for less power, meaning better efficiency. That's the goal. And in the end, we've gone through some tuning exercises where we've tried all this really cool stuff, and in the end, it's like the efficiency didn't get better, or we can't measure it. We can't prove that this improved anything. So we just put 2 days worth of work into this fancy thing that didn't really do anything. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're getting close to time here. I feel like we could listen to a podcast of Eli and David for hours, which I would be definitely down for.
That'd be cool.
You don't need to talk about that. But I want to.
Do you host a podcast? I don't know any podcast people.
Yeah, the Eli and David show coming soon. TM. Oh yeah, my show. Oh yeah, season 2, Between 286 Tatum Turnup show, something like that.
There you go.
I forgot about that. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping up here. We're reaching close to time. We're still going to have some networking going on. I think we try to get out of here about 9 on Thursdays. And also, we'll go over the catering. I want to give them a shout out too after this. But there are to-go boxes over there and a lot less turnout than we thought. So feel free to get you some. David, where can we find you? Where can we get in touch with you? We have feedback on LuxOS. How do we do that?
Yeah, so I think it's luxor.tech/support. I believe. Just go to the luxor.tech page. You can find how to reach out if you have either a support need or a feature request, or say you're playing around with the API and you realize, I want to be able to do this, but I can't because you don't have an API for it. Just write us there. You can also find me on X or Twitter, whatever the kids call it these days.
Call it Twitter forever.
I don't know if you put that on the slides. My name's kind of crazy, but it's like a hex form of Bitcoin.
I did. If you look on Spaces X, I did tag him there, so check that out.
Yeah, so follow me there. You can DM me if you ever want to reach out. But yeah, that's probably the best way to reach out to either Luxor or myself. I actually responded to someone on Telegram who messaged me in February, so don't reach out to me on Telegram.
I do that all the time, man. It's bad.
I just close Telegram and forget it exists until I have to open it again, so don't do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And before we keep going, we want to shout out a couple of events that we're having here at the space. We're going to start promoting events. I told Curtis, why don't we do that? Because, we're only here once a month. But next Tuesday, we have Women in Bitcoin. They're going to be going over the Money Electric documentary. That was the HBO documentary that supposedly knew who Satoshi was, whatever. Actually, a very interesting documentary. So if you have a lovely lady in your life, invite her to that. We have a great crew that comes out. We'll have food and stuff. We also are going to have our June Bitcoin book club going over Bitcoin mining heat reuse by our own Tyler Stevens. Damn, he plugs that book like crazy, even when I'm not. And then the day after that, we have Bit Devs at the space. And then there is another Women in Bitcoin before. These are just the events that are public events that are happening before our next meetup. So we put both of those Women in Bitcoin events there. If you have any need more details, just find our events on our Luma page or go to space.denver, and there's an event page there. If you want to learn more about the space, find us on X, Space Denver. All of your resources, just type in space.denver on your webpage, and we will have everything there. We also want to still have in our giveaway, we have a ton of these Shamri kits. I came straight from the airport, so I wasn't able to grab any from the warehouse, but next time I will bring some to hand out. But if you do get a miner with Compass and use the code Shamri, we'll send you a Shamri card game to learn about mining. It's a great kids game. I love the family who made it. They also made an adult version. It's a drinking game. So yeah, it's fun for the whole family, and also does teach you a good little breakdown of Bitcoin mining in that regards. Also, easy entrees, wonderful food. Like I said, get your to-go box. They're great. Brisket tonight was incredible. And I'm very glad we had a small turnout because I'm going to have some more brisket.
Me too.
But yeah, come back next month, second Tuesday of every month. We don't have a topic yet, but we'll figure that out here in the next week or so. And we will update that on our Luma. Go ahead and say that you're register on Luma, and you'll get updates when we push the topics there. But David, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure talking
Thanks for
to
having
you.
me, Tatum. Yeah.
And thank you all for coming as well. Yeah, everyone clap now. Cool.